I have just started sharing the webinar. So we've got people joining us. I can see participants, I always say this, flooding in, might be an exaggeration, but we've got people joining us, which is great. I'm just going to give you a second to settle in. We've got a couple of functionalities at the bottom of the webinar, one being the chat box, which is a fab place to say hi to each other and pop your link trees. If you've got a link tree, please sling it in there. And we've also got the Q&A, which is what we will be going through at the end of the webinar. So any questions you have for us, sling them in the Q&A, not the chat, please. So join us. We've got people joining. Let us know where you're joining from as well. I've got the chat open, so share your link tree. Tell us where you're dialing in from, and we'll get started in a second. Alabama, Susan from Alabama. Hello, welcome to Gokati from Northern California. I will just make an apology now. Great timing. My next door neighbours just at this window behind me having the house demolished. So there's a lot of noise going on behind. I hope you can't pick it up, but just shout in the chat room if everything goes. We've got someone from Melbourne, Australia, very close. Well, it's moving. We've got New York City. Thank you, Matthew, for confirming that you can't hear what's going on behind. If this blind was open, you would be able to see the construction workers. Someone else from California. Okay, I think we might, oh wow. How is my sound now? Henry,
you're all right, Katie, I can't hear it that bad.
Okay, now there's drilling, it's perfect. Yep. This is a very apt for a streaming conversation to have plenty going wrong in the background. So big thumbs up for keeping it topical, hey. I think it's perfect demolition going on here. Thanks for the reassurance there. All right, I'm going to start sharing my screen. I'm going to introduce you to my two lovely colleagues I've got joining us today. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to pop a little poll live. It just lets us know if you've got a link tree, whether you're familiar. And also, I'd love to know, are you streamers? Are you considering becoming a streamer? Are you a brand kind of looking to approach the streaming market? Just so we can see who we've got in the house. And I'll share the results of that for us all. Okay, let me start sharing my screen. This one. And here we go. Did that work, Henry?
Yep, that worked.
So there we go. Okay, so this is what we're chatting about today. It is Linktree Live for streamers. And I've got a couple of lovely colleagues joining me. We've got Henry, who is normally in our chat under the very vague name of Linktree team, but he comes to the fore today because he is our in-house expert on the deep internet and streaming. So Henry's our social media manager. Henry, wave, say hi, do all of those things.
Hello, how are you?
Henry is in Melbourne this morning, so yeah, it is morning here in Australia. And then we've got the wonderful Jeremy joining us from LA. Jeremy is our growth and partnerships manager, and he works with our kind of high profile, big accounts. And Jeremy, I was thinking, go on, flash some names, recent names. Kesha joined us lately. Who else have we got?
Dua Lipa signed up recently, which was exciting. Houston Astros baseball team signed up. We have some fun people signing up.
Good stuff, good stuff. So today we're gonna whiz through some basics of the history of streaming. We're gonna talk about what the kind of niches or interests within streaming are. We're going to look at kind of how brands can get involved and what opportunities there are there. And then some basics around what you need to get started if you're not already kind of in the biz. We'll have a brief look at some potential risks and just some things to be aware of before you go and share your entire life online. And then we're going to walk through the Linktree tools that are best suited for the streaming community. So, streaming's roots. It feels like we've all kind of started talking about streaming well, certainly I have started talking about streaming in the last few months since the kind of shutdown has forced a lot of us to go online. But Henry, tell me, live streaming isn't such a new thing, is it?
No, and I was thinking this the other day, probably traces its way all the way back to like theater or something in the in the early days. But in terms of live TV, you know, we've been experiencing live streams in some form, you know, with live infomercials, telethons, reality shows where, you know, people get voted off. So, you know, since the beginning, people have been drawn to it for the same reason that they still tune in now. It's the currentness of watching a live stream, the potential for an audience interactions, you know, the randomness, the things that can happen, drama, you know, maybe something goes wrong. And yeah, just unexpected things can happen along the way. So I think it's these same traits that you see, you know, in infomercials, telethons, you know, they have a variety show and then there's the raising money all the way through until it gets this big thing at the end. So yeah.
I love that. So it's kind of the chaos of it that kind of makes it so watchable.
Absolutely. And then Twitch launched in 2011. And then obviously there was this huge wave of other live streaming platforms joining. And now we're just seeing a renaissance due to the pandemic.
Fab. Well, not fab. Interesting. And talk to me, what counts as streaming? I've got quite a fixed idea in my mind, but I suspect it's probably broader than what I'm considering to be streaming.
Yeah, it could be anything. It's like we're doing it right now. You know, whether it's live, like right on the second live, or there's a slight delay. Webinars, Zoom events. You know, I've seen stand-up comedy. I've seen workshops, even virtual dating now on Tinder and Bumble. They have video chat functionality to go on dates. Museum tours. A lot of museums have been doing live tours instead of real life tours, just because of obviously the pandemic and everything. Well, we're talking about the pandemic a lot probably. And then, yeah, the probably the ones you think of are gaming on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube, and various other streaming platforms.
So we're all streamers just by the nature of being on this Zoom webinar.
If you've ever gone on Instagram Live, you're a streamer.
I feel better about this. So Twitch is the dominant platform, right?
Yeah, so it's still the main player. 1.7 billion hours of Twitch are watched a month, and since lockdown began, it's just grown exponentially. You know, jumping 50% between March and April to a full 100% growth year over year. So it's so huge. I see Cardi has said she's never heard of Twitch. Twitch is a live streaming platform where basically a lot of people use it for playing video games. But essentially it's kind of like this, you know, you'll see a big screen with whatever we're doing on it. The streamer's in the corner, usually their little faces in the corner. And then you're all in the chat, chatting to the streamer as they do it.
And in terms of billions of hours, this is like hugely popular stuff, isn't it? There's just an enormous audience there.
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to, you know, a stream might last for 1 or 2 hours. And so you might have it in the background as you do something else, or maybe you're playing video games alongside the streamer. So, I mean, especially in, you know, during, you know, times like now, you know, I might have a live stream playing while I'm cooking dinner. You know, it's all these different things they're really easy to tune into. It's kind of like having the TV on, except you know the streamer, you love the streamer, and you're excited to see what they do. It's a very relaxing and cathartic experience, I think.
I find it a little stressful. I still need to get past there's so much going on that I need to get past that. Talk to me about Valorant. This is literally a word that I have learned in the last week. So please introduce us here.
Yeah, you know what? I called my little brother and I asked him I call him sometimes to ask what he's playing. And I was like, hey man, I played this new game called The Outer Worlds. And he's like, man, that was last year. I'm playing Valorant now.
It moves fast.
Yeah. Valorant's great. It's this new game. It's like a first-person shooter, and it's currently the most watched on Twitch. And it had this really clever introduction into the market. They released a beta, which is, you know, when they pre-release a game to iron out the bugs before they release the full version. But what they did was anyone could play the beta as long as they had a Twitch account, as long as they watched some streams, and as long as they were able to broadcast it to fans. So basically, before the game even came out, there was this huge hype around this game that all the streamers are playing, and then they released the whole thing, and now it's massive. it's a really great business model for dropping new products, I think.
Good in that hype up. But it's not just Twitch, right? There are other platforms around that do similar kind of services.
Yeah. Facebook gaming is growing a ton every year. It's actually, I think it's probably the sleeper. I mean, everyone has Facebook, so I can definitely see Facebook gaming being accessible to people no matter where they are in the world. YouTube gaming is up 65%. YouTube is obviously a huge player, and I find that every streamer will have a YouTube channel or a highlights channel. So in many ways, it's easier to have it all on one platform. Mixer recently went under, but they grew.
What happened?
Sorry.
What happened there?
So Mixer was a new platform. I think it was introduced by Microsoft, and they spent a lot of money to get big streamers onto their platform. Ninja and Shroud are these huge streamers. And they paid a lot of money, and then they went under, and now they're released from their contract. So these big streamers now don't really have a home. I think some are going to YouTube, maybe some are going back to Twitch.
So it's all kind of shaking up.
Yeah.
Interesting. And tell me, my presumption, I know, is wrong. I kind of thought streaming meant gamers and esports, but it's not the case, right?
Well, and Andrea in the chat, she's just touched on this. Yeah, gaming isn't necessarily what streaming is all about. I mean, I find that streaming is more of a framing device. People really watch it for the personality of the streamer, whether it's you like the person, you think they're funny. Games I tend to be more of something in the background. An example I always use is a big thing on Twitch this year was chess. And it's like, chess is the most boring thing to watch ever, but you watch it because your favorite streamer is playing it with other streamers. So a lot of it, I think, is about gamifying other things you might do. I mean, it's kind of like having friends over for dinner. Like, what do? You play a board game, but you don't really, no one really likes Monopoly. You just play it because you want to hang out with your friends.
No one really likes Monopoly. That's the take home from today's session.
Exactly.
So it's driven.
There's all different categories of streaming already, and the people are innovating all the time. So,
and I guess that it's the charisma of the personality that is what people dial in for.
Yeah, and it's relationship between the chat and the streamer. So you can have text to speech. So when someone donates enough money to a streamer, they can write something and it will read it out to the streamer via text to speech. So
interesting.
It is like a two-way interaction, and sometimes they donate $5 just to insult them. But yeah, it's all about those little interactions between. I mean, it's really about getting to know the streamer and having that great banter between an entire sort of faceless chat and them.
So in kind of an answer to Andrea's question here, second to gaming, I know that sports has grown massively lately, right?
Oh, especially lately, yeah. I mean, with stadiums shutting down, I mean, there's esports, which is, its own thing, and always been massive on Twitch. In fact, I think that's where Twitch began, was just streaming esports. But more recently, we've seen, other real life sports turning to streaming, like EA. They launched the Stay and Play Cup. It's a tournament of big sports stars playing FIFA. So it's like, do you want to watch actual soccer players playing soccer on a video game? Yeah, it's
Is there a predisposition that if you're good at soccer, you're going to be good at playing FIFA? Is there any correlation there, or no? Jeremy's saying no.
I have first-hand knowledge to tell you no.
Fantastic.
Yeah, definitely not the case.
And I think that was there was a stat that was watched by 80,000 viewers a night, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it's like, I think people really miss sport at the moment, and streaming is a great way to just get contact with those athletes, and that's a common thing more recently, is just people want that contact with the people they've been supporting and watching for a long time, and there's no other avenue right now than streaming. And
then another fast growing kind of topic or niche within streaming.
So yeah, grown by 359% since lockdown started, music. So, a lot of concerts obviously have been shut down, so people are moving their acts to live stream. So you might have a day festival with live streamed bands playing. A lot of DJs use Twitch, so they might have a little party in the evening where they do their set and everyone just dances along or just plays in the background. It's the second most watched non-gaming vertical on Twitch at the moment. So yeah, and there's clear peaks on weekends. But aside from that, anyone can do a music stream. We'll talk a little bit later on about karaoke streams, but anyone can. I see a lot of piano playing Twitch streamers. I see a lot of people doing requests on their guitar. That's a huge part of it.
And I love that kind of how the online behavior is mimicking the offline behavior of having those clear peaks around music interaction at the weekends. It's kind of like we're shifting our behaviors online.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. A lot of Twitch right now is kind of morphing into regular television and how it used to be.
I love that. And then comedy as something that I think you've gone kind of deep on Twitch. Is that your preferred?
I love a comedy stream. So I think there's probably a few categories of comedy streams. So there is straight up stand-up comedy, which people have started doing. They do their stand-up set. I would say it's probably hard to do a stand-up set without an audience, without anyone laughing and providing that feedback. But there's also a lot of comedians that are switching to podcasts and webinars like this one, or doing workshops. And one thing I saw recently was, Adult Swim, the TV channel, the comedy channel.
I certainly do. Yeah.
They have started. They do live streams where anyone can call in and pitch a TV show idea, which is really interesting.
That's so awesome. Kind of risky as well.
So risky, really awesome. And they're kind of reviewed by a panel of experts, and they're just like the showrunners of all current shows on Adult Swim. It's really funny.
Awesome. And then what have we got around chat? Just are people literally just streaming conversation?
Yeah. So this is the Just Chatting streams, which is super popular on Twitch. It could be literally anything. It could be you reacting to videos. It could be cooking. It could be karaoke. It could just be audience Q&As. People ask you questions and you answer them on the stream. But it helps to find a way to incorporate audience interaction and sort of gamify it. A good example I use is there's this Twitch user called Ludwig, and he sets an Amazon budget aside and lets his Twitch chat spend it for him. And then he opens up all the random stuff that he buys at the end. But yeah, it's just a relationship between chat and streamer. If you want to entertaining stream, then the chat is its own character. So a Just Chatting stream can be really interesting to watch sometimes, even though it sounds kind of boring.
And then podcasters who already have a platform, this is an interesting transition for me. So they already have their platforms, but they are moving their podcasts onto streaming platforms.
Yeah, this is one of those things where podcasts have been slowly morphing into talk shows lately and variety shows. And podcasts now moving to Twitch and being live and having that audience interaction is super interesting. I've seen a bunch of podcasts that have guests, have musical acts. They do interviews. So yeah, I think it's a really great move for someone who runs a podcast. And if you're trying to monetize your podcast, a live stream is a great way to do that, because, rather than relying on monetization via YouTube or via Patreon, you can just get your donations to the Twitch stream directly.
Awesome. And so it seems like the kind of the real strength in the streaming opportunity is the type of audience that it's building. Talk to me about where that's headed.
Well, I mean, the stat on screen is live streaming is expected to account for 82% of all internet traffic. So it's huge. I mean, there's no understating how big it's going to be. And, there's going to come a time, especially now the pandemic's happening, where live streaming is a really good substitute for real life socialization. And the reason I say that is because it is like hanging out with a friend who you like, who's playing video games with you, who is chatting with you. And if we can't, you know, we're in lockdown right now in Melbourne, I can't go out and see a friend, but I can tune into, you know, a friend's stream. So I think there's no one stating how big it is now and how big it's probably going to be in the future.
And then what types of communities are we building here, and what are the things that work best in streams?
Yeah, so most people who stream, they do it every day. So you have this audience that knows you really well and builds up the relationship over time. They're really committed to you. So they'll watch your stream over other people's streams. Or they'll watch you when you go to someone else's stream. So, and that's we'll talk about later about how you can grow your stream. But that's one really great thing about live streaming is that your audience is really committed to you, really openly support you. The quality of the stream is critical too. It's really good to think carefully about how the stream is going to run, what it's building towards, what are going to be the fun moments along the way. And then all that behind the scenes footage really drives like viewership. So people see, it's streaming from your bedroom, you know, there's no pretense about it being on set or there being a live studio audience, or it's super edited down. People are seeing you for you and getting to know your personality and what you find funny and what you find interesting. So there's a really great opportunity to make it super personal.
Awesome. Just a reminder, we've got a few questions in there from Nick, William, Jay, Emily being lined up in the Q&A. We will come to those at the end, so please keep popping them in the Q&A section. Now, how can brands get involved in the streaming opportunity? Is it a bit of a clunky fit? Is it awkward, or do you have some good examples of ways that people can join that?
I think it fits really well. I mean, you know, I look at it this way, like, you know, it's brands you like sponsoring you to do something you love. And if a brand openly supports a streamer, that their audience knows that they're financially supporting their streamer so they can keep making good streams. So yeah, like people would rather see a live video than read a blog, for example. And so when you tie your product to a streamer, what you're doing is really building a lot of love around your brand and a lot of loyalty towards your brand. And an endorsement from a streamer is just as good as an endorsement from a movie star in many ways. There's a couple of really good live streams happening lately, especially sponsored ones. So KFC partnered with Client Liaison recently. Bumble set Tiffany Haddish and Common up in a virtual date via Bumble video chat. I saw one from Fireball Whiskey where they do a variety show with Brown Cardigan. It's like a meme page in Australia. So there's really great ways for brands to get involved. But if you're a brand, if you work for a brand, you have no idea how to get involved, just get in contact with a streamer and find out like how they would like to get involved with you. Because at the end of the day, you know, it's the streamer's job to come up with interesting ways to use your product. I saw a really great YouTube video the other day with Babish, who's this big chef, and he was sponsored by Sensodyne, which is really interesting, like a toothpaste brand.
It seems like an unlikely fit.
Well, yeah, I thought that too, but then he was making mochi ice cream, which is ice cream that you bite. So it kind of makes a lot of sense for a sensitive tooth brand.
Oh God, clever.
But yeah, we've seen fashion shows go to streaming, you know, like showing off their catwalks for social distancing purposes. We've seen tech and food industries. You know, I see lots of like apps like Honey. I see lots of mobile apps sponsoring streamers. Yeah, I see, you know, I see a lot of energy drinks. In fact, the market is kind of dominated by just a few brands. So if you do work for a brand, there's a really great opportunity to get involved because, you know, every streamer, every gamer is sponsored by, you know, the same 2 or 3 brands. And I'm sure they'd like to diversify their sponsorships.
Particularly if there's that stat around 80-something% of all internet usage will be streamed by the end of the year, the brand opportunity is just going to soar, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty
I had never heard of G Fuel before I started watching streams. So,
If I could get the second poll to launch right now, there is a question to find out how many people have tried G Fuel. But right now we've got a technical issue with the second poll. Now, are there things that we should kind of be aware of when you're heading into streaming in terms of security, safety, oversharing? Like, what's your vibe around that?
yes. The answer is yes. So you have that highly committed audience when you're a streamer. Obviously, there's a flip side to that where the audience feels like maybe they know you too well. You have to be really careful about your private information when you're a streamer, because obviously you're streaming a long time every day in the same place in your house. So you don't want people learning too much about you. There's been incidences in the past that are a bit ugly, but overall, I think the risks kind of, the privacy risks are a thing you just have to keep a lid on. In terms of other risks, though, in terms of brands, the only other risk is something going wrong on stream. But of course, that's all part of the fun. Things.
Why we embrace it, right?
But little mistakes on stream are super entertaining. In fact, they're probably the little moments that will get the most views. If your streamer slips up or falls over or something.
And tell me, when things like that happen, and it kind of it's received well, or it is kind of popular, is that in a supportive way, or does that content then become like, are they taking the mickey out of that, or is it kind of collaborative within the environment still?
I think a lot of streamers I notice have really thick skin, and they often, the chat will tease them, like, and jab them about little things. So for example, Ludwig, everyone calls him short. They say he evades taxes.
Evades taxes. How do they know about?
Yeah, it's a common meme. I think it's really, a lot of it's very harmless a lot of the time, and chat will just tease you about it. They might throw a couple of emotes in the chat.
Now tell me about emotes, because we had a brief chat yesterday and you said some incredibly interesting things about emotes to me.
So emotes are they're basically just little emojis but they're not like your usual emojis. So it's kind of the things that Twitch spams in chat when something happens. So you have the Pog emoji, which is like it's like an O face. And that always gets spammed when someone does something impressive or something unexpected. There's like a smug laughing face, always happens when someone does something really funny. They're a huge part of Twitch culture. I see kids these days saying emotes in real life. They just go like, Pog, Pog.
It's fascinating. I love that crossover. It's so interesting. Okay, I'm sold. I'm going to be signing up as a streamer on Facebook Gaming tonight. What do I need to get started? Jeremy's giving me like side eye, like, no, you're not. No, you're not. He knows.
I'm on mute for a reason.
You need obviously a high quality camera and microphone, although microphone is probably more important than camera. There's nothing more annoying than like a terrible microphone during a live stream. It's something you can be listening to for an hour. So invest heavily in a microphone. The camera is not quite as important because remember, you might just be a little person in the corner of your screen. So a decent phone is probably a good thing if you're going to do IRL streaming. You're going to be out in public. You need a phone with a decent battery life and a decent camera. And I always say it helps to have an established social presence, but it's not essential. We'll talk about this a little bit later on when we talk to Linktree, but a lot of the streamers, they got famous by streaming. So, streaming is enough to get you a big social presence in itself, a big audience in itself. But it does help if maybe you have a Twitter full of hot takes or, an Instagram that's relatively popular. It does help to bring that audience over to your Twitch channel. And of course, a Linktree.
Drum roll. And why specifically a Linktree? What's the kind of the usage there?
Well, a Linktree is a great place to like centralize your online presence. So like I said, if you do have audiences in other places, it helps to have that same link in the same place. Also, as we talked about before, sometimes these streaming platforms, they don't last forever. So, Mixer just went down recently. If you had a big audience on Mixer, you're probably pretty worried about, where your audience is going to find you now. Whereas if you had a Linktree, you can switch platforms and everything is housed within the Linktree. You don't have to change out your bios on all your other social accounts, for example. Another great thing is, we'll talk about, major features later on, but Linktree makes it really easy to catch streams and to remind people when your streams are happening. You can do a lead gen sort of thing where you send out an email or an SMS. Yeah.
Let's have a look at some of those.
For your audience to catch streams, and a really great place to constantly promote it on your other platforms.
I think this is the perfect time to bring our super user number one, Jeremy Katzenstein, onto the floor. Show us. Yeah, it's you. What?
Let me.
I think I've stopped screen sharing. I hope I have.
Am I? Can you see it, Kate?
I can see your screen.
So I think Henry was touching on it perfectly. I think the way that a streamer is going to be, so first off, one of the great things about Linktree in general is how malleable it is to meet your needs and how it can grow with you and adapt with you depending on what you're doing. So it's interesting because a brand, for instance, might be using a Linktree to promote specific products alongside a press feature, alongside something like that. Whereas I think Henry really hit the nail on the head that streamers who use Linktree, I've noticed, really use it to kind of primarily to aggregate their social presence. So maybe you found them on Twitch, but when you click on their Linktree, you will see all of the different platforms that they use on a regular basis. And so just to show you, Nicolou, who I can't believe, I can't say that I'm pronouncing that correctly because I've only read it and not said it. But she just signed with 100 Thieves, which is a big gaming team. I think they're a team. And she recently created a Linktree, and she's a bilingual streamer as well. And so what's interesting about her Linktree is that not only is she, really laying into this to promote all of her different social channels, but she's able to promote ones in different languages alongside one another too. So you really do get a complete sense of where you can find everything about her on the internet. And so to get the most use out of something like this, there is definitely value in putting your Linktree everywhere. So yes, Instagram is the obvious place for Linktree just because that's where people originally began using it. But people definitely use this in their Twitter bio, which is, I know, huge in, at least in the gaming space for streamers. People really lean hard into Twitter because that's where they can announce when they're going live and stuff like that. So to leave your Linktree in your Twitter bio is super common as a streamer. To put it in your YouTube descriptions as well for your individual videos, just so that no matter what video someone clicks on, they'll be able to see, all of your different platforms. Twitch also does itself support putting links in your sort of bio area, but it's a little more of a chore to make that happen at the moment. You have to hyperlink an image, technically speaking, but Linktree is currently working on a remedy for that to allow you to very easily, via a Twitch extension, to add a Linktree to your bio on Twitch as well. So definitely, Katie, you're unmuting.
I was going to say, nice reveal. I like it. We've got something coming. Yeah, thank you for jazz hands.
So yeah, we are mindful that this is going to be useful. This is going to be the most useful if you can put it in multiple places, and especially as a streamer, I think that rings true. A couple other things I think worth talking about. So one thing that's really cool that Linktree recently put out for pro users is the ability to actually embed a Linktree or a Twitch stream into your Linktree. So rather than clicking out to a Twitch stream, I can just click on the link within my Linktree. It'll expand and an embedded version of the stream will appear. So I have a Bands in Town live stream that I think is going on 24/7, but it'll intermittently have different people performing. But basically what this allows me to do is just from within the link tree, I'm able to follow, subscribe, and there are also different iterations of this embed where you're able to also facilitate the chat as well. So you can really embed most of the experience of a live stream on Twitch into your link tree, which is pretty exciting. And also, means that people can, if your link tree is on other platforms, you can stream from anywhere, essentially, or watch a stream from any of those platforms for all intents and purposes. What else is worth sharing? So Henry mentioned the ability to use Linktree to notify your viewers yourself about when new streams are occurring. And what he was alluding to is this ability we have for pro users to collect email addresses and phone numbers directly from within their Linktree. So we have these two options here. I always end up using Chrissy Teigen as an example of this because I know she's using this tool. But basically the idea behind it is that rather than clicking out to a whole newsletter, I can just click here, misspell my name, and make up a lovely email address that I wish I owned and submit it to have my visitors submit that to me. So I can create a mailing list to do whatever I want. And in this case, it could be to, ping all of my subscribed followers that I am going live soon. And you could do the same thing with phone numbers as well. So if you are a more personal person and you are fine with that sort of, that level of connection, you can absolutely set up the same integration as a pro user to collect phone numbers as well. Beyond that, something that could be useful depending on how you, just the promotional efforts you do when trying to get people to watch your streams, is to use our scheduling tools. So for instance, what would be an example of this? Maybe actually one interesting way to use something like this is, let's say you're collaborating with a brand and basically the brand has said, we want you to incorporate a link to our product in across your social profiles for the next 48 hours or something like that. You could schedule a link within your Linktree to go live and to deactivate at specific times. So you can really set that in motion automatically. You could also just do one or just do another. So for instance, if you are streaming every single day for a week and you want your Twitch link to be on top because that's what you want people to see and engage with, if as soon as you're taking a break from streaming, for instance, you can schedule that to disappear so that people aren't trying to view your streams that are not currently happening. But if at any point you are trying to drive everyone to your stream, for instance, you're saying, this is really my focus right now. All of my other social platforms can wait for now because I'm really trying to get everyone to watch me on Facebook Gaming, let's say. You can create something called a leap link, where if I just click on this tree icon here, basically pro users are able to set up an expiring redirect that for a set period of time, let me use a different non-Zoom link. They're all Zoom links. I'll use this one. So basically I can set up this expiring redirect where as this timer goes, it'll default to 24 hours, but I can set it to last for as long as I want. And anyone who clicks on my Linktree during this period of time is actually going to leapfrog over the landing page and go straight to the link I've set. So in this case, it's our Zoom webinar link. In your case, it could be a Twitch stream, Facebook Gaming, whatever what platform you're trying to stream on. It could be Zoom as well. And then as soon as this clock expires or I disable it, it will immediately revert back to the normal landing page. So the idea here is really that, I don't have to swish my link in and out across my social platforms to direct my audience where I want them to go. And from a social management perspective, it means I can set up a single redirect And no matter where people are clicking from, as long as my link tree is on that platform, they'll get redirected where I want them to go. Let's see. Katie, do you want me to speak to analytics a bit, or?
Yeah, I'd love just to dip into the analytics. We've got quite a few people here that are using the free package. So it might be the first time they're seeing some of the analytics, and it would be interesting to know how they can specifically help understand sort of streaming audiences.
For sure, and it could be actually very interesting. I'll show right now. So basically, free users just get this top bar. Pretty much, it's a broad overview of how your Linktree has been performing over its lifetime. Pro users definitely get a bit more of an in-depth look how their Linktree is performing. So for starters, you could see how many clicks you've received over the past day, week, and month. So for instance, if you directed everyone to a stream on a particular day, you could see what your click-through rate is on that particular day. You can also look at that on a per link basis. So you could see, you know, how many, how many people clicked on my Twitch link compared to the people clicking on my Instagram link. Besides that, this also gives you a really good sense of where in the world your clicks are coming from. So you can see by country what your click-through rate is, as well as how many total clicks you've gotten within this period of time, in this case, 28 days. And you can also see which platforms are driving the most traffic to your Linktree. So when you put this on multiple platforms, you're able to get a very broad sense of where your engagement is happening, or where people are engaging most with you. And in turn, you're able to use that information to, you know, better understand your engagement, I guess. Because if you have 1,000 followers on Twitter, 2,000 on Instagram, but you're getting more clicks on Twitter, maybe that means your audience is more engaged there, and that you should be leaning harder into that platform, for instance. But yeah, and then lastly, to round out the data talk as an adjacent concept, the things we do offer in the pro version as well is the ability to add a Facebook pixel. So if you are, let's say you have a product that you've just launched alongside your streaming efforts where you want people to get engaged, or maybe like what Henry was describing, if you did some sort of promo where people are able to buy whatever they want on Amazon with your gift card or something, to use a very hyper-specific example, you could feasibly take all of the traffic you receive from those efforts and use it to build custom audiences on Facebook and advertise to them using your Linktree traffic. So you could say, oh, these are the people who were really engaged with me today because they were participating in this promo. Maybe I should be advertising to them the next time that I'm going live so that they are going to be more likely to tune in.
Fantastic.
But I will relinquish my screen because I think I've dwelled enough.
Ah, never enough, never enough. That's awesome. Thank you. I think it kind of whizzes us through some really great tools that could be useful for streamers. We've got a ton of questions over in Q&A, so I'm going to hurl these at the both of you. Let's open it up. Nick has a question on how you can get people to subscribe to your channel monthly for revenue. I think this is a really great use of the kind of the social icons and some of our some of the different monetization platforms out there. Henry, is this one that you would like to speak to?
You mean Twitch channel?
Subscribe to your channel. I think it could be any channel, but like how are you going to get people to kind of start paying for your content, basically?
Yeah, so you can subscribe on Twitch just in the same way that you can donate. So there's multiple ways to make money from Twitch. Obviously, streamers care about the long term mostly, so having those subscribers that are paying you monthly is really important. But at the same time, you can do donation challenges where people donate you money. So yeah, it really just depends on what your goals are and how consistently and the quality of your stream. If you're streaming every day, people will have an easier time subscribing because they know that when the content's coming and what it's going to be.
And things like Patreon, are they often paired with a streamer platform?
Yeah, sure. I mean, usually YouTube channels or podcasts will use Patreon. There's multiple ways you can get paid. If you are popular on more than one platform, Twitch has monetization within it, but it is good to diversify and get a Patreon thing going, because obviously it's a different platform, and you know, it's just good to cover your bases.
I've got myself on mute. I've just launched another poll there. We have a question from William Patterson that I'm not sure we're going to be able to answer, but we can definitely go away and do our homework. Do you have any tips for stream syndication or stream syndication services, and what's needed to display the stream on other platforms, such as RTMP URL or streaming key?
You know what? William, we'll answer your question on Twitter. DM me on Instagram, link to on Instagram, and I'll be able to put a bit more thought into this question.
Meanwhile, Jay asks, and maybe this is one for Jeremy, are there any plans of being able to embed the podcast in the button the same way that we do with the Twitch or YouTube vids at the moment? That's a product kind of.
The short answer is we're certainly interested. It's not plotted yet, but that is definitely the path forward for us. It's just to allow visitors to engage as much as possible with your content without having to leave the link tree.
Fantastic. Emily has a question around Twitch in terms of ease of access. It's a great streaming platform, she says, and it can be really monetized very easily. But what are your thoughts on Twitch being prohibitive in terms of like the hardware you need to set up, the mic, camera, software? She says there's so much. So it's not as easy as something like Instagram or Facebook Live. Is there kind of a workaround for getting onto the Twitch platform simply, or are those other platforms, you know, as wide reaching and hold as much potential?
I mean, she's absolutely right. I mean, Twitch does have a few more barriers to becoming a streamer, just because of those software things. And also, you know, it's hard to be a streamer. You know, you have to juggle so many balls. I mean, you have to play video games, interact with your chat, make sure nothing going on around you. You know, it's hard to do that. I'd say it depends on what your purposes are. I mean, it's totally fine to stream just on Instagram and on Facebook if that's what we saw some brands doing it, talking about makeup and beauty. They were doing sort of face-to-face live beauty tutorials. And that type of thing is fine to do on a phone. Twitch, as I say, IRL streamers do use phones, but it does help, and it does make it easier to subscribe to you if you do put in the effort and get the proper hardware and the proper software to make your stream look as amazing as possible.
That ties into actually a question from Sharon in the chat. She has a beauty and fashion brand and was asking kind of what's the right platform. Is Twitch a good platform for her brand?
I mean, yeah, I don't see any reason why not. I've seen beauty related streams, people doing makeup tutorials live. You know, these sort of things, they have a really, they're kind of easy to watch. They're happening live, so it's not like, you know, edited together like a YouTube video. And you can follow along with the streamer as you do it in real time. So a beauty and makeup brand would be great on Twitch. And I think I've seen streamers, a lot of streamers do makeup type things and sort of makeovers together on YouTube. I've seen people like make over their boyfriend on stream.
There's your opportunity, Sharon, for your lash extension product.
You know what it was? Oh no, it was the challenge. They challenged their boyfriends to do their makeup.
Oh, nice. I've seen that. Yeah, that's on TikTok as well. Yeah.
And then they do that on stream, and it turns out terribly. But you know, it's
a
great.
Product placement. A question from Matthew here on what is the best platform to stream as a creator, musician, songwriter. Oh, he's a lot of slashes here: musician, songwriter, entrepreneur, independent artist. He's using music streaming platforms, but should he be streaming on Twitch as well?
Yeah. I would say yes. In fact,
Why not?
I would test out a lot of different platforms: Facebook, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, YouTube Gaming. All of these platforms can host a stream of you doing music, and it's good to diversify where you're putting your music. You want your music to get out there, and using a lot of different platforms, especially in combination with a Linktree, is perfect. Yeah.
And I guess as my marketer brain is going on this, you're just watching to analyze where your audience growth is coming from, where your kind of uptick around. I mean, if you're monetizing through other products like merch, or you're trying to grow a newsletter sign up, you're just watching where they come from to work out which is the right place for that content.
Absolutely. And I see a lot of independent musicians on Twitch, especially, people just hanging out, jamming, playing some music, and taking requests from chat about what they play. It's really a great place to, find out, and also to, test out new songs. If you've got a new track, see what Twitch thinks of it.
I'm sure they'll be brutally honest.
Yes.
Good luck out there, Matthew. Andrea has a great question here. I love this. Should brands endorse streamers, or should the brand founders be doing live streams?
This is a great question. It's actually something I've been thinking about a lot. I would say start with, learn as much as you can from the streaming community, because they're experts at it, and they're going to be the ones that are going to teach you what streams work well, what streams don't work well. And then, if you wanted to get into a foray into it, then, take their advice, get ingrained with the community, because, the best way to grow on Twitch is to, go to other people's streams and appear on other people's streams, and connect with people in the community. I would say start small and then work your way up, just like anything.
Jay asks, do the views directly from the Linktree button, so the embed when you've got the Twitch video, do the views on your Linktree of the Twitch count towards your Twitch view? Jeremy?
I believe so. It's basically an embed of what's already happening. So yeah, it definitely should count as a view.
Yeah, agreed. Nick had another question which kind of taps into the one that we're going to get back to William Patterson on. So Nick, William, follow us on Twitter and we're going to find out about stream syndication. Nick's asking around how you can host your stream on multiple platforms. So we're gonna do some digging there. Oh, this is a technical question. We might again need to dig into our community to find an answer for this, but I'm going to ask it anyhow. What might cause pixelation starting around 45 minutes into a stream? This didn't happen when I was using Facebook Live, but I've been using StreamYard to stream. This person sounds way more clued up than we are, to 2 platforms at once with the Cameo app as a webcam. It sounds good, but about 46 minutes in, the video gets pixelated. Any thoughts?
Yeah, look, you'd probably have to take it up with StreamYard's support team, but in terms of pixelization, it's all about your download and upload speed. You need to have really good connection to stream live, and there's kind of no way around it. In fact, I think streaming didn't really hit it big in Australia until quite recently, because we just have terrible internet down here.
Have we got up to speed now? Are we competing globally?
Yeah. We're getting close. I see a lot more Australian streamers popping up.
That's so interesting. Best practice to grow social presence for streamers. I think any of us can speak to this one. Henry, give it a crack.
Sure. Best practices. Well, as I say, getting in going with the community, joining other people's streams. I mean, I tend to find that on Twitch, people like to help each other. They were obviously helped out at one point by a bigger streamer. So, when you hit it big, help other smaller streamers get an audience. I mean, you guys, everyone's in it together, and it's a really great community to be part of just because of that. And as I mentioned before, it helps to have a strong presence elsewhere. You can bring those people over to Twitch, and you might be their first introduction into streaming.
Yeah, we have a question here from Drupa who would like an explanation about the pixel ID in Linktree. Jeremy, can you give us an overview of that?
Yeah, I can try. It's something I've found that makes more sense the more you do it. But essentially, the idea is if you have a page on Facebook, a business page specifically, I believe, you're able to, but that could be a creator too, just any sort of official page. You can, and you use the Facebook for Business platform, you can pull a pixel ID, which is just a string of like 10 numbers or something. It could be longer, I forget. But you pull a string of numbers, and when you place that string of numbers into your link tree, it'll do something, we call it firing. So whenever someone clicks on your Linktree URL, for instance, the pixel will fire within the Facebook Business platform, and it'll attach it. If the person who clicks on your Linktree is logged into Facebook, which most people are all the time, then it'll associate that click on your Linktree with that individual user and give you the option to pay to advertise to that user at a later date. So the idea is to do very, very specific advertising and retargeting through Facebook's platform, but using your Linktree traffic to create the specific audience. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense.
It creates those pools of traffic, so you can see exactly who comes from where, and then you can use them as an audience at a later point. No, that was a good explanation. I hope that answered the question, Juba. Next up, I dipped in and out a bit here. Nick asks, is your team hiring? I love Linktree. Yes, we are. Absolutely, please check out our website or our LinkedIn page. We are on the grow. I don't think in the chat. What's that? You're putting it in there? Fab. Thank you. Thank you. Then we have, will Linktree allow the pro user to have more than one URL links in one Linktree account? Oh, that's another future product.
Say that again?
Will Linktree allow pro users to have more than one URL link within one Linktree account? So can you have multiple Linktrees under an account?
So we do currently allow pro users to link accounts to one another, so you could feasibly access multiple Linktrees from a single login, but you do pay for Linktrees by account. So there isn't a way to pay for pro and get multiple Linktrees associated with it at this current moment in time.
Fab. Someone here is saying, I have the pro version and I'm using the social icons rather than the full bar link for each of the social sites. So any thoughts about the benefit of using one feature over the other? She said that the example we showed of, is it Nicole?
Nicole.
Yes, Nicole.
Her name is Nicole.
The example we showed earlier, the user seemed to have the different bars. Now that's a really great point. She had the separate bars because she was linking off to localized presences, right?
I would go a step further though and just say that, or not a step further, I would just say that Linktree is flexible on purpose. I see people do just the bars. I've seen some people create pro Linktree accounts just to put the social icons in there. And I've seen people do both. What I would say is the benefit of the bars is the ability to be very clear on where you're pointing. So obviously the icons have a lot of that ability as well. But if you're really trying to do a call to action of follow me on Instagram, subscribe to me on YouTube, those sorts of things, it might be beneficial for you to do that. The other thing that is worth noting as well is that we don't currently track clicks on your social icons, but we do currently track clicks on the actual links. So if you're primarily using your Linktree to aggregate your social media accounts, you are going to get a ton more value out of using the bars than you are out of using the social icons, to be quite candid.
Interesting. We're getting close to time, so I'm going to fire a couple more questions that we're going to have yes, no, as short answers as possible on. Angie, does Linktree have a Facebook group if we have more questions about Linktree Pro later? Henry, this is your domain.
Yes, there's a user group for the power users. It's called Linktree user group on Facebook. I'll post a link. We'll send you a
In the
link
chat.
afterwards. Okay, there's one question I wanted to answer real quick from
Please.
Jessica.
Yes.
How would professional or financial literacy content land with Twitch users? The answer is yes, I've seen it a lot. In fact, I wanted to touch on this a little bit more. Twitch isn't just about gaming or fun or jokes or whatever. There's psychologists on Twitch who give advice to streamers. There's definitely people who whose entire thing is they just talk to streamers and give them advice, and financial literacy would be a great fit. In fact, I mentioned before, there's a meme about Twitch users not paying their taxes. If you could help them out with some
Now's your
tax
time.
advice, that would be amazing. Yes.
Jessica, get in there. Ariel asks, will Linktree be adding an additional payment URL so that we can include Venmo and PayPal, not just one? Jeremy, do you know anything on that?
Eventually. The current payment icon was sort of our immediate leap into being able to offer that function at all. And so the next step is obviously to break that down and make it more specific. But yes, we hear you loud and clear.
Nick asks, is the Twitch embed up and running now? This is a great tool. So yes, the embed is there, it's live, it's good to go. Jeremy hinted at something called a Twitch extension, which is on way, but is not yet live, but we'll be making a big splash, particularly if you've attended today. We'll be letting you guys know first when that's live.
Stay tuned. I'll be posting about it on social.
also just to touch on how the Twitch extension or the Twitch embed comes about, you literally just add the Twitch link to your Linktree. And when you do that, we will have a pop-up appears that's like, hey, this looks like a Twitch link. Do you want to embed it? So it's pretty straightforward. You shouldn't be looking for a specific thing to enable it.
And last question, you talked about risks. Can you get into trouble for streaming your own content?
Yeah, so it really helps to, own the copyright of maybe videos you're streaming. Although, I've seen streamers, especially with branded streams, a lot of streamers can, do reaction streams, and it's kind of fair use because they're transforming the content. With branded streams, I would try to get permission to use the content in whatever you're streaming. But if you own the content, you should be fine.
I got myself lost in tabs there. I was just trying to grab the Linktree user group for Facebook to sling into the chat. Henry, maybe you can pop in the Facebook link for everybody. And I was going to say, also check out our Linktree live Linktree, which is just /Linktree live for our upcoming webinars. We've got one around how to monetize using Linktree, and then we've got one that's quite popular, a series that we do called The Clinic, where we basically just open the floor up to your questions for the entire hour, and we make Jeremy sweat, and it's great fun. So do keep an eye on the Linktree live to sign up for those webinars. From the poll, I can see that people have lots more questions around tools to become a streamer. We're going to put that into our content and make sure that we're kind of keep providing you those answers. If we didn't get to your question today, I'm really sorry. There's some great stuff in there. We'll try and get them out on Twitter and in the user club. Right, Henry?
Yes. And if you have any questions for me anytime, just message the Linktree social media pages. I'm always answering questions on there. So yeah. See you there.
Thank you so much to everybody who attended. Thank you to Henry and Jeremy for giving me an introduction to streaming. Turns out I am a streamer doing this webinar.
Wow, you created it.
Who'd have thunk it? Hey, thank you so much, everybody, and we will see you in the next webinar. And we will be sending around a recording of this on email, I think, later today or tomorrow. So if there's anything that you wanted to recap, that will be coming to your inbox. So thank you very much, and we will see you next time.